Well, John, the Timberwolves got to 10-10 in a very interesting way. Let's examine really where this team is almost a quarter of the way through the season. And we'll get in a little bit of the Laker game and how LeBron and AD looked on Monday night. We're talking here on Tuesday morning. This is the Jon Krawczynski Show. He's Jon Krawczynski from The Athletic and TalkNorth.com. This is our basketball show at TalkNorth.com. This show, like everyone else, if you like it, subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We're going to thank Princeton's Liquors, which I got to get up there. I got some stuff I got to buy. TSR Injury Law, Chew Vision Institute, Head Flyer Brewing, and Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops Clothing Line. Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops Clothing Line sponsors a Twitter question that we will do at the end of the show. So I don't know. I'm just going to let you go, John. Where is this team right now?
Yeah, look, it has been a jagged, rough start to the season, as we have kind of detailed on this podcast. And this is a team that still is searching for that identity, is trying to find itself kind of in the middle of all of this turnover, all of this newness, everything about it. I do think after these last two games, one a win over the Clippers and one a win over the Lakers, they certainly were not the sort of games where you say definitely they have solved their issues and they are, the train is leaving the station now and everything is good. But you have seen more of the defensive intensity, more of the effort and energy on that end of the floor that fueled last year's run to the Western Conference Finals, and that has been remarkably absent in the first 5-6 weeks of this season. So that's a place to start in their way in trying to build back what they had last year. They've rediscovered some of that defensive energy, which is good. And they still have a long way to go, but at least they have had a couple of games here now where they've gotten a little bit of positivity and show signs at least of being able to kind of find the groove and find the right track. I
feel like the vocal angry portion of the fan base has been prone to blame either Finch or Randall for the struggles. Is my read on that accurate? And if so, is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, the fan base certainly came into this season with high expectations, rightfully so. They were really, really excited about what was, what the prospects were for this season. And they have been incredibly upset through the first 5-6 weeks. And I understand it. It has not been pretty. It's been just kind of a buzzkill, really, for what they were hoping for. And so I do think that they are pointing their finger a lot at several areas, and you hit on two of them, Chris Finch and Julius Randle for sure. And then I do think Tim Connolly is taking a lot of heat right now. It's funny, Jim, that all of a sudden everyone in this town is a Cat fan. And for some reason, I don't remember it being quite like that when he was here. And you see him putting up huge points and rebounds with the Knicks, even though they're going through their kind of searching process a little bit. And Julius Randle certainly has not looked great at all for the Wolves. Dante DiVincenzo has really struggled as well until the last couple of games. He's starting to find a groove. But yeah, I do think that there's frustration with Finch for not playing more players. There certainly is frustration with Randle for more of his just aesthetic. He plays hard. He tries to be physical. He does a lot of things, but he is very slow-footed on defense so far. He is a low energy guy just in terms of soaking up that, when you read in body language, when you're just kind of trying to look for sparks, Julius Randle's not that guy. He's kind of a quiet, low energy dude. And so that coupled with the team's slow start has certainly kind of put him right in their crosshairs in terms of just the fan angst and the fan ire. I thought he played pretty well last night against the Lakers. But just when you go from Karl Anthony Towns' sort of just energetic and sometimes volatile personality, and affect to Julius Randle's very quiet and very staid personality, I do think that has been an adjustment for fans to see as well. And this has been, kind of one of the issues that they're that they're just kind of pulling their hair out about. I think it can get better, but right now it's been a tough watch, for especially on the defensive end until these last couple of games where they've seemed to start to find a little bit of a groove that way.
First of all, you did hit on it. I played in a charity golf tournament a couple summers ago, and it was all sports fans, of course, as is usually the case at those things. It was all male, all sports fans, and they complained about two things to me every time I met somebody. What's wrong with the Twins? And their Twins are about to go win a playoff series, but what's wrong with the Twins? And God, couldn't they trade Karl Anthony Towns yesterday? I hate watching him play. And now he's the departed savior.
He is going to come back. I think they come back later this month. And he's going to get the biggest ovation he's ever gotten, in Minnesota. And, I hate to say I told you so, because I did take a lot of flack over the years for generally saying, you know what, this guy isn't trash. He is actually a good player. There are things that you don't like about him, the arguing with the refs, some of the turnovers, and some of the stray voltage, as our friend Britt Robson has kind of coined that phrase, and the way that he plays very excitedly and animatedly is not always good. There are faults that he has as a player, but he is incredibly talented. He is just a producer in that way, and reliable that way. Also, what people undersold and underestimated was his impact on the defense. Yeah. He was in the right place at the right times for this defense. He rebounded well. He has size. So he helped them in a lot of ways. And now I think fans who were quick to kind of bemoan and really just kind of roll their eyes at maybe some of the kind of goofy things he would say in the locker room and stuff like that, are at least having a little bit more of an appreciation for what he brings to the table. Because I don't know, Jim, I really don't know if Karl Anthony Towns was here, could they win the championship? I'm not sure. But what I do know is they would not be going through these growing pains right now. And maybe these growing pains that the Timberwolves are facing right now will actually be beneficial for the season as they go along. Maybe this team, as constructed, will be better suited to play in the playoffs against multiple different teams and different looks. That's all possible. That is still all on the table. I'm not willing to say that you have to give up on any of that. But what we do know is that we are starting to see exactly what Karl Anthony Towns brought to the table on a nightly basis, and the value of that. And if people are starting to kind of appreciate that a little bit more, I think that's a good thing.
Sure. A little late. I thought, listen, when we had Jim Peterson out at Head Flyer Brewing, he was fantastic. Our discussion was great. It was one of the best shows we've done. And I thought one of the points that really jumped out at me that both of you made was that the Wolves thought that, listen, everybody knows Towns is a great shooter, period. Can't argue it. But what the Wolves thought they needed to beat teams like Dallas was more shot getters, not just shot takers and makers. And Julius Randle can get his own shot. And that's where where the rub is, right? Julius Randle can get his own shot, but in doing so, sometimes he's going to dribble in the lane for 5 seconds and have a defense collapse on him, and it's not going to look very good.
Yeah, that's right. And we actually saw that a little bit in the Lakers game as well. I mean, he only had 18 points, but there were a few times where he got the ball on the block or at the elbow, and it is very deliberate. Sometimes he does dribble the air out of the ball, but he does have a craftiness and a knack for creating his own shot and getting it off at odd angles and making the shots. He can be very he has an ingenuity about him in terms of offensively, that when you're late in the game, when the shot clock is winding down, you can throw it to him and say, Julius, bail us out. And he has that ability to do it. The other thing that he does have right now that we are seeing, and fits and starts, but I think that the Wolves would like to see even more of, is that as he's trying to create his own shot, he can collapse a defense and kick out to open shooters on the perimeter, and it's up to them to make them. They made, a lot of his teammates, Dante DiVincenzo and Jaden McDaniels and folks made them against the Lakers. A lot of times they had not been making them earlier in the season. But I do think that he can create offense both for himself and for others in that way. And so, that is something that they can build on, or that they can use as a real kind of benefit in tight games and in close games. One thing that they do have to find a balance for, and Rudy Gobert talked about this after the game, was that both with Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle as isolation heavy players, the thing that they have to guard against is getting too ISO heavy and the ball getting stagnant and not getting others involved. If they can keep that ball moving, and they're just going to be so much harder to guard. And so there are going to be periods of time, and we've already seen it, where the ball stops because Randall's just probing, and it looks really kind of stilted and frankly kind of gross. So we'll see. We'll see how they even that out over the course of a long season, but there are absolute pluses to Randall's game and the way that he can create shots for himself. It's just a matter of being able to balance that with getting the team involved.
So much more I want to get to, including some interesting personnel groupings and what's up with Dillingham. But first, tell us about Princeton's Liquors.
Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. Bill Princeton and the Princeton family, we've been telling you about them for months. They are a long time distributor of alcoholic beverages, wine and spirits in the northern suburbs for decades and decades. And you go into Princeton's Liquors, and they are going to have everything that you need for your holiday gatherings. Maybe if you need something to take the edge off at, while you're biting your nails watching these Timberwolves play, go on into Princeton's Liquors. They will take care of you. Specialties for Princeton Liquors: bourbon and craft beer. If you want to bring something unique, if you want to bring something that a lot of people haven't seen before, or is hard to find to your local holiday gathering, to a work party, to things like that, go into Princeton's Liquors. They're going to be able to take care of you and get you something that will turn some heads. I think everyone likes to kind of go into their holiday parties with something that no one has seen before, or certainly that is harder to find. Princeton's Liquors will have that bourbon, will have that craft beer for you. Of course, they also have wine, any other kind of spirits to take care of any of your holiday needs. And so Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove, go on in there, tell them the Jon Krawczynski Show sent you.
Yes, please do. Also, I didn't get a chance to talk to him. I saw him come by and chat with you. Steve Terry from TSR Injury Law. Steve has been under the weather. Glad to see him out and about last night at the Laker game. And as Steve always tells us, keep it simple, keep it short. 612-TSR-TIME, 612-TSR-TIME. Naz Reid. Enjoy the commercials. If you're ever injured, call that number. They will take good care of you, and they will not charge you unless they win your case, and they win lots of cases. That's why they get to hang out with Naz Reid. Also, John wants to tell you about True Vision Institute.
TrueVision.com is the place to go. Go there to set up your consultation so you can go down and visit the good folks at True Vision in Bloomington. You walk into the place and you are just welcomed with open arms. You get a big hug, and who doesn't need a big hug right now when the weather's getting colder? They will take you through an exhaustive, expansive evaluation process and consultation for you to look at your vision correction options. Myself, I went this summer and got the LASIK surgery, and it's been one of the best things I've done for myself in forever and ever. I do not have to go back in for regular contact and eye exams, refreshing the style of my glasses, trying to stay on top of the latest looks and trends, spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on daily wear contacts, and dealing with the hassles that those provide. I'm just free and clear now after having LASIK surgery at True Vision. It was one of those things that I'd always wondered about. I always said, it can't be really as good as what all these people say. Well, now that I've had it, no, it really is that good. Don't waste any more time like I did. Go into True Vision, TrueVision.com. Tell them the Jon Krawczynski Show sent you, and just get on with your life and leading it. You get that LASIK surgery. Everything is free. Everything is clear. You're just wide open, and you can see like you've never seen before. I've loved it. I know you will love it too. TrueVision.com.
Very interesting that what seems to be the most successful personnel grouping for this team right now is basically Gobert, Alexander Walker, Nas, DiVincenzo, and Conley. Why is that working so well?
Yeah, I think one is it's an intelligent group. Yep. I think that, with Conley, with Gobert, the way that Nikhil is playing, Dante is a smart player. These guys are all, they understand how they fit together and what they have to do both on the offensive end and the defensive end to maximize their looks. And I do think that, it just is a group that has the versatility to fly around a little bit defensively. They have enough shooting out there right now, and they move the ball and get good shots. And I do think that when you take Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards off the floor, you do kind of create a look that is more democratic, that is more like just spread it around. Whoever has the open shot takes it. There's no real pecking order, and they play a little bit freer, a little bit just clearer in their state of mind. I think that it's been a really good unit for them, and as well as they play, that does have to give Chris Finch just kind of a little something to think about as he's trying to get that starting five to click into place, and it just hasn't yet to the same degree. So I do think it's a great sign that group is playing well, because that does also mean that Mike Conley is playing well again after really struggling to start the season. They are a different team when Mike Conley is really being efficient and making good decisions and running the show and doing a good job. But yeah, they can get to their spots. They know who they are, and they play clean, smart basketball, and that isn't the case with all of their lineups. So it's nice to have something to hang their hat on. Now they have to expand that discipline and that feel to the rest of the group.
All right, let's get to Finch, and of course, along with him, Dillingham here in a second. First, tell us about Head Flyer Brewing. We had a great show with Jim Peterson lately. What's going on over there now?
Head Flyer Brewing, go in there for a Wolves game. They play on the West Coast starting this week. Head Flyer Brewing stays open with the Wolves game on TV for you to watch those late night games. There's really nothing better than going in, having a beer, and watching the game kind of late night. There's nothing else going on. Chill out with some of your friends, some of your Wolves fans. Gather at Head Flyer Brewing, watch them play the Clippers, watch them play the Warriors this weekend. And just kind of hang out. They will keep the doors open for you if you're in there and you're having fun and you're watching these games. You also can get, they have a great pizza truck is sitting right outside for you. But most importantly, they just have really, really good beer, really, really good drinks. They have THC drinks and seltzers and gummies. They have any kind of beer flavor that you could want. They have great merch, and their bartenders, Patrick, Dan, Meg, all these guys, they all will take care of you, and you'll have just a great time hanging out at Head Flyer Brewing. Head Flyer Brewing in Northeast Minneapolis, right on Hennepin Avenue. You can't beat it for a good time.
And we also appreciate the long-standing support of Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line.
SGLambchops.com is the place to go. Use the promo code JONK20 for 20% off all of their merchandise at SGLambchops.com. If you are in Target Center, if you've been in there lately, you've seen the latest iteration of the Lamb Chops collaboration with the Timberwolves. Some really cool old school hoodies that are just selling just like crazy in there. You're seeing fans wear them all over the place. Those particular items are only available at the Timberwolves team store in Target Center, but you can also go to sglambchops.com if you want any kind of casual wear, sweatpants, hoodies, t-shirts, hats, beanies, all sorts of different things to be both comfortable this winter, but also to look great. I love their shorts. I love their high quality fabrics that they use. You know that when you buy some of their products that it's going to last you a long, long time, and you're going to look good for a very long time. So go to sglambchops.com, use the promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything that you get there. And if you are at a Timberwolves game, stop by the team store, look for their collaboration, the Lamb Chops hoodies with the Timberwolves. They are super cool, and and everyone is starting to wear them.
No doubt about it. Thanks to all of our sponsors for making the show possible and for supporting the network as we grow. We do really appreciate it. All right, so what, if anything, could Finch be doing better or differently to help this team through this?
Yeah, he keeps talking about wanting to expand the rotation and wanting to get more guys into it. And yet, in every one of these games, he kind of really does lean heavily into the top 8. Now, we are seeing Dante DiVincenzo play better. We are seeing Naz Reid come around. And so when that does happen, I understand his desire to get all 3 of those guys with Nickeil, who probably has been their second best player on the entire team, or at least and maybe even the most consistent player on the team all season long. You want to get those guys into the mid to high 20s in minutes. And so if you do that, it's difficult to get a 9th guy into the rotation, to get a 10th guy into the rotation. I just do think that being a little more malleable with his rotations, and especially on nights where a certain player is struggling, where the team is having a hard time generating energy, if you can find a way to wedge Rob Dillingham into the lineup, even throw Terrence Shannon out there every once in a while. We saw kind of the impact that he made at the end of the game in the Lakers game. If you need energy, those are the guys to provide energy. And so I do think he's going to have to be a little bit more willing to adjust mid-game to what he's seeing out there. He has really stuck by his guys and his gut through these first 20 games of the season. Sometimes it has worked. Sometimes it really has not worked. And so I think that one of the things that he will have to do going forward is just be really open to the idea of, hey, this isn't working tonight. Hey, this guy is having a tough time. His legs are heavy. Something's not working. Let's change it up. Let's get some more juice and some more energy out there. And Rob Dillingham's the 8th overall pick. He's got to play. He's got to play in these games. And it's not going to be easy to wedge him in there, but that's what's going to have to be incumbent upon Chris Finch to do, because they're going to need Rob Dillingham over the long haul of this season, but especially going forward in the next few years. And it's time to start kind of getting him out there and getting his feet a little wetter.
We're talking here on Tuesday morning. Do you think the ankle's going to keep him out much longer?
I don't think so, Jim. I saw him walking around the locker room before the game, and he didn't look to be limping too badly. So we'll see. They play the Clippers on Wednesday, and that is a bad matchup for him. And in terms of the size that the Clippers can throw at teams on the perimeter, and so I would be surprised to see him in that game. But when you look at the 2 coming up in Golden State, that seems to be a little bit more of his speed. Maybe you give him almost a full week to rehab and rest that ankle, and then try and throw him out there against the Warriors and see what you can get there. See if he can give you a little bit of that spark and that burst, because man, he can. When he's out there, you can feel the electricity, and he's going to make mistakes. You're going to have to play through some things. He's going to miss some rotations defensively. He's going to make a turnover here or there. He's going to miss a shot, but he also just brings so much dynamicism to the offense. And this offense has not looked dynamic a lot. It's looked slow. And so if you want to get up and down, if you want to get in transition, if you want to get that ball moving, Rob Dillingham, I think, is a good antidote for a lot of what ails this Wolves offense.
Let's maybe, I don't know if this is the last topic or not, but I want to definitely get to it here before the show ends. Anthony Edwards is having, to me, a very interesting season. He's shooting the 3 a lot. He's shooting it well. Most of his numbers are up, except for assists, and yet it doesn't look great to me right now. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's a good observation. I think lately, especially, first of all, the shooting that was so good at the start of the season has fallen off. We see he will have good stretches in games of knocking down shots, but then he goes through long droughts as well. And so I think over the last several games, he's hitting multiple threes and he's doing it, but you're seeing, nights he was 1 for 5 against the Lakers, 3 for 13 from the field. He was 3 for 12 against Houston. from three. He was 0 for 9 in the second game at Portland. So there's been some variance and some versatility or some versatility of outcome. And I do think he needs to start shooting better. I think part of the reason is he is having a hard time finding space in the lineups that he is out there, because a lot of times he's out there with all of the starters. You have Julius Randle, you have Jaden McDaniels, who's really struggling with his shot, and then you have Rudy Gobert. It's hard for him to find space going to the rim. And so he looks to be searching and probing and forcing it a little bit more right now and not comfortable. And so they have to work out some things with their offensive spacing to make it a little easier on him, because he's having to generate really tough looks for himself. And he is a tough shot maker, but right now they're not going in at the same clip as they have often. And so finding a way to get him into more of a groove and make things easier on him offensively, I think should be a real priority for this team going forward.
Okay, this is the last topic, and it's very big picture, and maybe it's a little Pollyanna-ish, but I know everybody wants to see this team play well and fulfill its promise and prove the trade was a good trade and get in a good position. I keep on thinking back to last year where it looked like the Mavericks were kind of a mess, didn't play any defense at all, got outscored a lot by average teams. And then all of a sudden they get the late season, they make a couple trades, they have all of a sudden the best defense in the league, they go to the finals. I'm just wondering, how much is seeding really going to matter, and how much is it going to be just finding it at the right time and being healthy and playing well going into the playoffs at the end of the season?
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Jim. I mean, I do think that the way that the West looks right now, you would say probably that as it stands, there's one very, very good team in Oklahoma City. I think they're the clear number one best team in the conference. But then you get into a bunch of teams that are all very good, but you can't say one is remarkably better than the other. I mean, when you talk about Houston, Memphis, Golden State, Dallas, the Clippers, the Suns, the Lakers, the Nuggets, even the Spurs, the Wolves, I think there's going to be a lot of bunching from about 2 to 10 in the conference this season. And so it is going to matter more about A, are you healthy going into the playoffs? B, what is your matchup? I think quite obviously, Jim, the Wolves do not want to be in the play-in tournament. No. So you want to really try to avoid that if you can and be in the top 6. If that can happen, if you're in the top 6, then I think you can feel like you have a real chance to win multiple series and go forward. And so I know that there is a lot of hand-wringing about the Wolves. I know fans are up in arms, and I don't blame them in a lot of ways, because a lot of what we have seen early on here has been ugly, and has been hard to watch. But I just would encourage a little bit of, taking a deep breath and trying to hang with it a little bit, because A, this team is incredibly talented. I really do believe that. B, they do need time to come together. And C, we have seen the Wolves kind of overcome things over the past several years. I mean, last year they got off to a really hot start, but only after kind of stubbing their toe in Atlanta. 2 years ago, Rudy, and this team really, really struggled in the regular season, and started to get themselves together as the playoffs came along. 3 years ago, they were 4-9 to start the season before they made the playoffs. And so I understand that the expectations are higher this year. Everyone wants them to go deep in the playoffs, maybe even do a finals run. We'll see if they're capable of that. But I do think that from everything that we have seen in the conference so far, anything can happen come playoff time. And so maybe there's a trade for the Wolves, or maybe just these guys figure each other out a little bit more and just start playing with more efficiency, with more tenacity, and just more trust in each other. Like that's all entirely possible. And so giving up on it or saying that the trade was a disaster or anything like that. It's all way too early for any of those comments, and everything is still very much right in front of these Timberwolves with 62 games to go. So I would say to everyone, take it a little bit easy, understand, hold your team to a high standard for sure, but also understand that they're right in this, and it would not surprise me at all if they found themselves, and then going into the playoffs, you're saying, hey, this is a team that can do some damage.
No doubt. All right, let's get to the Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops Clothing Line Twitter question.
Yes, let's see here. Let me find it. It was right here by Jason M. Good. How can the Wolves do a better job at using Ant off ball to get him better looks from three and to attack closeouts? He seemed kind of not in the flow the last few games. We touched on it a little bit, Jason, but I do think that he brings up a good point in terms of what Chris Finch has talked about with the offense lately and the struggles that they have had. Is I do think that all of the threes that everyone hit, from Anthony Edwards to Julius Randle to everyone in the first week or two of the season, maybe lulled them into a little bit of a false sense of security in terms of, just kind of leaning on that a little too much. And so being able to find ways to get Anthony Edwards activated off of the ball in the half court, going toward the basket, would be a really good option to get the offense moving. The other thing that Chris Finch has talked about a lot, and we saw just a little bit last night, actually, probably as well as they've done all season, is getting them out in transition. It has been a very difficult thing for the Wolves to get out and run and score in transition this season, and really for the last several seasons. Anthony Edwards doesn't really run the floor all that well. Rudy Gobert, kind of now Julius Randle, like they're not guys that naturally get out and run, but they had 20 fast break points last night. Ant got out and got a couple of layups for easy buckets that were important in that game. And I think if they can start to get that moving a little bit more and get Jaden McDaniels scoring in transition, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Anthony Edwards, like all those guys, Dante DiVincenzo pulling up for three. That would be a way to get everyone feeling a little bit better about their shot, about their offense, seeing the ball go through the rim. And so I think that's a point of emphasis for them as they head out on the road this week, is to get that offense moving and get some more pace into it.
Recommend listening to the Viking Update Show with Jon Krawczynski and myself, two longtime Vikings observers on a very interesting team. Also, we have former Vikings general manager Jeff Diamond offering inside analysis on the Vikings and the NFL. Check those shows out as well as this one. We appreciate you listening. Great stuff from Jon. We'll talk to you next week.